First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Romans, the 13th chapter. And as it says, be subject to government. Now I'm going to pull up the NLT here. I think that the wording is can sometimes throw you off, but it's a bit clearer when you look at it there for this chapter. But basically, what the Apostle Paul is saying here is he's using so many words to kind of like elaborate a bit on what Yahweh Shai said, right? In Matthew, was it 5:25? Agree with thine adversary quickly, whilst thou art in the way with him, in the sense that given your predicament, right, and even that much more for those that were the church in Rome, being given your predicament and your situation, you have to apply wisdom. Okay, don't do things that are going to attract attention to you. Don't try to do things that are against the law, right? The Lord has set up a system and you are in it, and he is the one who set it up, right? So you got to follow it using wisdom so you stay out of trouble. So this is Romans 13:1. Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. In the NKJV, it says, let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God. So whatever governing authority you are under, wherever you are subject onto it. What that means is you know what your do's and don'ts are. Don't go and do something wrong, and then when you are apprehended or when you are caught in the midst of it, you're trying to justify yourself. Knowing you are under them because the Lord set them up, you have to don't give yourself over to them. When here Paul is saying, because ultimately, even though it may be an Edomite government, maybe the Romans, it may be whoever you're under, the Lord is the one who sets it up anyway, right? The scriptures tell you that. The Most High ruleth in the kingdoms of men and giveth it to whomsoever he will. He setteth up one and taketh one down. So there's no power but of God. Indirectly, there's still an authority the Lord set up. The powers that be are ordained of God. See? So as it says in the NKJV, for there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. So the solution is not that the Lord is going to overthrow them because they gave you a parking ticket or they pulled you over for speeding. The solution is that he gave you wisdom because they need to be in authority to accomplish certain things. You need to know how to behave while they're in authority so that you can navigate your way out of it. That's why you have wisdom. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of God. Because if you try to, overthrow or rebel or, you try to go against the power that the Lord has set up, you're going against the Lord. It's kind of like what Jeremiah was telling Israel about the Babylonians. He's like, look, it's inevitable. They are going to, come and do what they're going to do. Submit to them. They are the power that the Lord has set up now. Submit unto them and you'll be fine. What did they do? Instead, they try to rebel, right? And what happened to them? Cooked. So as it says, resisteth the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. Right? So anyone who rebels against authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and they will be punished. Now, another example is the siege of Jerusalem, right? Now we know that it was prophesied to happen. It had to happen. But when you look at it from like a human standpoint, it really began with Israel rebelling against the Romans, right? They were triggered, but then they began this rebellion, and so it was a series of the Jewish Roman wars, as they call it. And what happened? Why didn't the Lord say, well, these are my people, and yes, the Romans are an authority and I set them up, but these are my people. So let me overthrow the Roman government right here and now for the sake of them. Is that what happened? No, they got crushed. Okay, history tells you that. They got crushed and the temple got destroyed. So like I said, we know that happened according to prophecy, but looking at it from the human perspective, right, as the Apostle Paul says, I speak as a man, you can still see in that had you taken the route of understanding these powers are set above the Lord. Let me move accordingly. You would be able to avoid that kind of punishment or damnation in yourself. Verse 13, for rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. NLT, for the authorities do not strike fear in people who are doing right, but in those who are doing wrong. If you are on your way to go rob a bank and you see a cop car, your heart is going to jump, right? Your heart might skip a beat because, as he says, they're there, as it says, to strike fear in not in those who are doing right, but in those who are doing wrong. Would you like to live without fear of the authorities? Do what is right, and they will honor you. Hey, and there are cases where you might get stopped, but the way you behave yourself, the way you conduct yourself as such a law-abiding citizen gets you out of whatever trouble it may be. Okay, so if you're doing what you got to do, you don't have to worry about the authorities. So do what you got to do in a nutshell, because you're sheep amongst wolves. Verse 4: for he is the minister of God to do to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid, for he beareth not the sword in vain. For he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. So it says here, the authorities are God's servants, sent for your good. Yeah, because one way or another, if you think about it, yes, today Esau, I'll use this modern day example. Yes, we know that they're the elites, they're wicked, they push a wicked agenda. Yes, we know that. But why do they have speed limits in a school zone? Why do they have laws about stopping when the stop sign comes on a bus? Why do they have authorities around in bad neighborhoods? Why do they have laws against murder? Why do they have that? Ultimately, it is for your good. It's to govern. If you're speeding in a school zone, what can happen with kids walking around? We know that kids can sometimes be impulsive. What happens if you're going too fast to be able to react in time and a kid runs into the street because the soccer ball went there and then boom, you hit him? The stop sign for the bus, maybe it's on 2 lanes on your right or 1 lane on your right, and it put the stop sign, and you're like, man, let me just go anyway. And then there just happens to be a kid that gets out, and they go in the front of the bus, and they're crossing the street, but you don't see them because the bus was covering them. You didn't stop, boom, you just ran over somebody's kid. Yes, Esau is wicked, but they're appointed, and the laws they have are still for the good of you to an extent. If you keep them, if you follow them, if you stay out of trouble. Right? So it says, but if you are doing wrong, of course you should be afraid. Yeah. If you out here prone, I'm just using regular examples here. If you're prone to running red lights or you like stealing from stores, they got cameras there for a reason. Yeah, be afraid. If you went and committed a crime, you're going to be looking over your shoulder for a long time. For they have the power to punish you. That's what it means by he beareth not the sword in vain. They are God's servants, sent for the very purpose of punishing those who do what is wrong. So the Lord has appointed them there and made us subject to them. And so he gave them the power to be able to, as it says, punish those who do wrong. But also they serve God in the sense that Esau and, for example, during this time, the Romans were appointed for a reason. The Lord, they were literally a part of the vision that Daniel saw. They had to fulfill their role. So the Lord is not going to take them out of power just because you don't like them or you're feeling oppressed by them. They're there to serve the Lord in their own right, to fulfill his will, to bring about the things that need to be done. Esau is appointed here to serve the Lord in his own right. If he's not here to set up the MOTB, who's going to do it? So while we are subject under him, under the authorities, we got to move with wisdom. Okay? Verse 5, wherefore ye must needs be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake. So keeping these things in mind, be mindful. Submit, as it says, so you must submit to them, not only to avoid punishment, but also to keep a clear conscience. If a cop pulls you over or you see their lights and you speed up, what do you think is going to happen to you? For this cause, pay ye tribute also. So, like, I keep using modern day examples because we live in the modern times and it might make more sense to you. But when you look at When you look at people who get pulled over, right, and they start arguing back and forth with the cops, and it escalates. All you had to do is get out the car, show me ID, whatever the case is. If you are doing right, you don't need to worry. Even if they take you to the station, you'll be released. Okay, if you are not in the wrong. See, so submit, because you're not in a position to be doing all that. For this cause, pay ye tribute also. See, so for this reason, whatever tribute, tax, whatever you got to pay it. For they are God's ministers, attending continually upon this very thing. So they're appointed for this purpose, right? NLT, pay your taxes too for these same reasons. For government workers need to be paid. They are serving God in what they do. So Paul is saying this because he wants to make sure that they didn't have the mindset that, oh, well, we're believers in Yahweh Shai. He's going to come. This present world is going to be done away with. So we don't got to do anything because we got power. We got divine power. No, you're still living here. You're still in the world. You still got to use it as not abusing it. Render therefore to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute is due, custom to whom custom is due, fear to whom fear, and honor to whom honor. You're not gonna go and disrespect the president and then expect to be okay. Well, he Edomite, so after that Edomite, okay. And then they pull up certain charges on your ass that they've been having for a long time. Give to everyone what you owe them. Pay your taxes and give government fees to those who collect. But damn, they're the devil, man. But guess what? What you gonna do? You're not gonna pay your taxes? Okay, IRS gonna come see you. You're only gonna hurt yourself. Yeah, but they can't do that. Okay, but they are. So you do what you gotta do to live wise, right? It says, and government fees to those who collect them, and give respect and honor to those who are in authority. Owe no man anything but to love one another, for he that loveth another hath fulfilled the law. See, so don't be in debt to anyone, with the exception of owing them love from the Lord, right? Loving one another in sincerity. For in doing that, as it says, he that loveth another hath fulfilled the law. And what he means by that is, it starts with the love. If you have love for one another, you're willing to do everything else that you are supposed to in how you treat this other person. For this, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness. Do you do these things to somebody you love? Your dearly beloved family member? Would you go and do that to them? No, because you don't want to hurt them. So if you love somebody, you will not do these things against them. That's why he said, for this, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness. Oh, I saw him do this. No, you didn't. You're lying. Thou shalt not covet. Damn, I really like what he has. Now, there's a difference between, damn, that looks really nice, I'd like to go get one for myself, versus I want exactly that chain that's on his neck. I'm willing to go as far as to do something to him for it. And if they harm him. And if there be any other commandment, it is briefly comprehended in this saying, namely, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. When you see your neighbor's ox going astray and you go and you help and return it, you love your neighbor as yourself, because if that was you, you would want somebody to do that. That's what he means by it's comprehended in this. Love worketh no ill to his neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law. See? So, because the law doesn't command you to work ill to your neighbor, just go ahead and just hurt them. No. So when you love somebody, you're not going to do wrong to them. You're not gonna, as it says, work ill or evil towards them. Therefore, loving is fulfilling the law, because the law is not working ill to your neighbor. And that knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. And that sleep is that spiritual sleep. Right now is the time to be active. Now is the time to believe. Now is the time to get working, because our salvation is nearer than even when we believed. And more so now in our time. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the work of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. Okay, so the night is over. The day in which salvation is coming is right at hand. Put off the works of darkness, put off the evil deeds of the world, and put on the armor of light via this truth. Let us walk honestly as in the day, not in rioting and drunkenness, not in chambering and wantonness, not in strife and envying. Because we belong to the day, we must live decent lives for all to see. Don't participate in the darkness of wild parties and drunkenness, or in sexual promiscuity and immoral living, or in quarreling and jealousy. But put ye on the Lord Yahushua Hamashiach, right? Put on the mind of Yahushua, and make not provision for the flesh. Don't give room for the deeds of the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof. Because what? It's going to lead you back into condemnation. And that brings us to the end of the book of Romans, the 13th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.